And we're back on another exciting episode of Starfleet Boy, where we have a casual and informal conversation about Star Trek. And today's focus is on Star Trek Discovery. And we're here hot off the, if you will, probably less than 24 hours after it aired, with our, I guess this will be more of a reaction as well as a discussion. So, the episode is just insane. As far as summaries go, what happens is we pick up right where we left off on the chapter 1 finale, and the ship's kind of like recalibrating its sensors, and there's all kinds of malfunctions going on because, well, they just hopped into a brand new universe, so it's to be expected. And as they're trying to figure out where they are, a Vulcan ship comes to bear and starts to threaten to open fire, and it's all very confusing. Another ship comes in and helps the Discovery out and destroys the Vulcan ship, and then slowly the crew start to realize, well, I skipped something really important. Captain Lorca, pretty much the Vulcan ship arrives, suggests that they're in a parallel universe, and everyone's like, so anyways, as they're figuring everything out, we finally learn that they are actually in a universe that we fans are very familiar with of Star Trek, people who've know about the Mirror Universe. So we find out that that's where exactly they are, the Terran Empire. They get all this information about it in very interesting ways, and then they convert the Discovery to the ISS Discovery and are now hoping to figure out how to get back. There's a whole lot of details which we'll obviously talk about in the episode, but I think the coolest part of the episode is the one I'd like to start with. And that's just the whole thing. The realization that they're in another universe, and the clever way that they decide to, try to get out of it, and like Joe did in this one episode, are probably all that other stuff was worth. Like, it seems like Star Trek Discovery just gave us like a whole bunch of answers, and it's super exciting. What did you guys think? Done talking.
I loved it. I was hesitant to say it was my favorite Discovery episode because I still have Lethe in mind. But aesthetics aside, Lethe isn't as interesting as this episode. It's a great episode, but this one had me on the edge of my seat throughout the whole, like, and every single moment is kind of like a wait a minute, and then of course, I mean, heavy spoilers, Kolba dies. Yes. I was like, what the hell? And then they go into the Defiant, and they got this USS Defiant on screen, and I'm like, what the hell? And it was pretty insane. There's a lot of things going on. A lot of payoffs.
A lot of geek out moments, indeed, as well. Like,
and a lot of payoffs for Discovery that I've been waiting for a while. Ash is pretty much confirmed to be Volk. We see Connor again, which is someone that I wanted to see. We finally get the Captain Tilly, which I've been waiting for since that. Of course, Mirror Universe confirmed, because
right.
So yeah, it was the mid-season return that I was hoping for. This is really good, and that Jonathan Frakes directing. So okay, I'm gonna praise Jonathan Frakes and say that it's because of him that the episode felt more Star Trek.
Right.
Maybe not, but it's the only reason I can find that it felt more Star Trek is that Jonathan Frakes, having directed 2 movies and multiple episodes, is the reason why this episode felt more Star Trek than a lot of the others.
The impression I'm getting from Twitter from some of the actors, and you'll have to forgive me, I don't have like specific references in mind, but like it seems like Jonathan Frakes really pushed the actors and the whole production into a kind of like a that wonderful place where you're uncomfortable because he like probably challenged them. I mean, and I think he's the most qualified director so far to have done that. And I love that this is the episode that he got to direct because knows Star Trek. So yeah, I would agree. I would agree that it's because of him that it feels more Star Trek.
I happened to see an interview where Jonathan Frakes actually says that it's the luck of the draw. Like they essentially chose the episode for him, so he couldn't choose which episode he wanted to direct. But I've been watching a bit of After Trek. I haven't finished watching the episode of After Trek, but I was watching it before we start this discussion. And Mary Chieffo said that Jonathan Frakes pushed her and Shazad Latif to the limit to really get them to the closest possible they could in that scene that they have together. And it felt like First Contact, Data and the Borg Queen.
Well, it's just like really good. Yeah. Gary,
okay, that's enough. Yes.
I don't know, what should I say?
Can you hear? Did you like the episode? Did you hate the episode? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We've lost Gary. Star Trek lost you.
No. Hang on a second.
Send out the distress beacon. Launch TIE fighters.
What? That's wrong universe.
Sorry, go on. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's fine. I was obviously everyone started to buzzing. Everyone's buzzing yesterday in the US and on Twitter and everything. It's like, oh, Discovery's coming back in a couple of hours, and I was like, okay, I still have to wait for 1 day, so I try to keep myself away from Twitter. But eventually, I've got like some little tweets from everyone. Oh, it was the best episode ever, best Discovery. I really loved it, fantastic, and I knew on the one. I knew after one tweet, one specific tweet from one specific person that we're gonna see some cameo from the Prime universe and from the original universe that we all loved about, and that was the USS Defiant, obviously, that we and Sean and you said about already. Gosh, this is me breaking down, not the internet. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So everyone was buzzing about the episode, and I watched it with a big anticipation. It was a good episode, but I still don't really know what to think of anything. It was a good episode. I liked it, but I'm not like overly thrilled about it, like both of you.
I think I've been the most nervous I've ever been about a TV show. Discovery, and one of the cool things about having these conversations and like having this document is that, like, at least with the Discovery discussions, there's like an actual document of how we were feeling at the exact moment of or near it and stuff like that. So I think it's kind of cool that we
very interesting
perspective there, because it sounds like next time you need to just go to bed and not turn off Twitter completely. And like not wake up.
I was working today.
I think you have to not be on Twitter. Twitter might Discovery night, like just a 24-hour period. Like it starts on Sunday for you.
Thank you.
Twitter blackout. Call it Twitter blackout.
Twitter blackout. Okay.
Black alert on Twitter.
Yeah, the spoilers are heavy on social media too. I mean, people don't hold back. They try to get their articles and their reviews and their blogs and their recaps out as fast as possible. And
I actually didn't see Star Trek Discovery right away last night, Gary, because I was watching the Golden Globes. And my favorite movie that I was hoping would get the Golden Globes did not get it. And
how was that a priority? How is that a priority? The Golden Globes.
I had my favorite film, a film that has moved me so completely, like no film has ever moved me, was up for, and the two actors are extraordinary. And so it just like I had a sense of like It's called Call Me by Your Name. I just did a plug for them. Everyone, go see Call Me by Your Name. YouTube, please put an ad right here with a link that says Call Me by Your Name.
No, they're just gonna flag. It'll be fine.
No, you just put the ad. Trust me, you want this. You want the Star Trek nerds going to go see your movie. So it's fine. Anyways, it's an extraordinary movie. And so, I haven't watched the Golden Globes in years, but I was actually excited this year. I wanted to, you had a family night. We all got drunk. And then that was a great thing because I got to watch Star Trek Discovery pretty knackered. Is that the right word?
Yeah. It's very common in New Zealand.
I was watching Voyager yesterday, and I had a day of my life, a night of my life. Everyone was watching Discovery. I was watching Voyager. Discovery. I was starting Voyager. There you go.
The first time, so you know what state I was in, and I was blown away. It was like every 10 seconds, and it's a really cool episode. But if it's spoiled for you, I could see how it could be not as cool.
No, it's not. It's not spoiled as in terms of details and stuff. No one said okay, what gonna be turned out Ash Tyler that we already knew kind of behind the scenes, and the Captain Tilly was awesome. I loved Captain Tilly. I think she was the highlight of the episode. Captain Killer.
but they also, I think the show did things at least in ways that I didn't expect, and I was wondering how they were going to solve some problems. And I think it was a wonderful kind of way to deliver a lot of information to because you can get 9 episodes. It took 9 episodes for a lot of these to develop, and they finally dropped. There was the snow bomb in the Discovery bomb. Which dropped, and it kind of lets all these answers to questions. So even just from our discussion last time, we talked about are they going to kill any of the pair, our duo, our Hugh Culber and
well, let's be very clear, he's not dead.
I mean,
no, he's coming back.
Oh, he is? Oh, I didn't know that.
How come?
Well, spoilers.
Wait, how do you know that?
I know that because I watched After Trek, and because the producers and actors are very, very, how should I say this? I don't know how to be polite about this. They try to not spoil, but they do spoil a lot.
I see.
Well, I think what's going to happen is
basically
Aaron Hobbits said, and I responded. I just tweeted at him actually. Aaron Hobbits said that this is the first openly gay couple that they have on the Star Trek show. And they have no intention on killing them off at the 10th episode. And so I find that a bit weird. I don't think that sexuality or gender or race or anything is a reason to keep someone alive. I mean, if you want to kill the character, then just kill the character.
Yeah, I think that's a little...
The way he's reasoning reinforces difference to me. But... that is pretty much his statement. He says we're not going to kill him off, so we won't be seeing.
I didn't see that yet.
We won't be seeing a mirror Culber. We will be seeing a mirror Stamets. That's confirmed. And
all these things.
This why did they tell us? Yes, this is on After Trek. But
just
okay, to be honest,
11 for me now.
Yeah, but I mean, Culber, what's his name? Wilson Cruz and Mary Chufo aren't as used to speaking about events that haven't happened as Aaron Hobbits, that's Aaron Hobbits and Gretchen J. Berg. So they kind of let the beans spill a bit about what was going to happen, etc. So I won't go.
I haven't watched After
Trek. If you haven't watched After Trek,
I've seen this episode about 3 times.
Let us talk about this episode, not the next.
Well, anyways, the moment where actually was super exciting for me because I was like, holy shit, I did not expect that to happen at all.
Same here.
So now I'll be curious how they resurrect him if it's Culber. So that'll be.
I have a feeling they it's actually Paul Stamets will be the one who will resurrect him in a way.
Like
he might have superpowers or something at this point. He's just not aware
at
of.
This point, yeah, it's true.
Well, I mean, he has super strength already because he just kind of brushed Culber off and he flew across the room. So he's got super strength already.
As far as storytelling goes, I really love the moment when just before Culber dies. I think it was like a scene before Culber dies, but where Shazad Latif, what's his name? Tyler. Tyler Volk. Now we can say it officially. Where Tyler Volk is coming in to be examined, and his turn blue for just a moment after
gains his lucidity, or
kills him. Yeah,
he enters this universe fully.
Something happens. Yeah, it's just like a really cool moment because it shows that whatever his affliction or whatever's happening to him, it's like something that perhaps can be reversed or like controlled at least, which is very interesting too. So, and it wouldn't be on Star Trek to have a godlike character because someone had theorized that like in the original series, which is iconic, but I have no memory of the name of it anymore. Where no one has gone before, where no man has gone before.
So, yeah, mentioned the second pilot.
Yeah, the second pilot, where you have
I think it's called Gary Mitchell.
Gary Mitchell, thank you. Gary Mitchell basically turns into a god, along with another crewman on the Enterprise.
Okay.
Actually. So that would
Is there something that you didn't like in the episode?
About this episode? I didn't like only like that they're like nitpicking again on visuals, like for example, that kind of thing. But like I'm starting to.
You're going to talk about like the worker bee, the way it works, the technology behind the worker bee.
Certainly, yeah, completely something that for a future time to have. I mean, like if you look at it from like an actual perspective,
in the timeline of Discovery, yeah.
I do like in that scene, one thing I do like is that the way that he controls the shuttle pod is like kind of this like sensor technology. It's just, or like
a ball that's moving around or something.
You can imagine that the Enterprise that Gary's holding up, which has those buttons and stuff like that. And you can say that like a lot of these things probably have like sensors. So depending on how far you move your finger or where you put your finger on the buttons, they're actually doing something completely different. And future people are just used to using technology like that. So it looks like ridiculous to us, but it's totally normal to them. So there's a lot of ways you can explain away the
trying to join us. Apparently, Wolski is trying to join us, but it just says please wait. So you might have to reinvite him, or
let me send it again.
We'll work that out.
Gmail. Ooh. Oh. All right, guys. So yeah, to me that even though it was like out of place, I would expect from there it actually technically does, it's there. Like if you just have to say, like if you have to resign to the fact that the special effects and the visuals and everything are just updated, that's it. Like there's no way to tell me is like the reality is they're not gonna switch it, or this is a redesign of Star Trek and that's it. Like you have to deal with it.
I will say that
because the Defiant is also proof of that. If you notice, the Defiance pylons had like
they modified that. I didn't like that at all.
But I also like that I like that they put the grooves in the hull too, because if they're already gonna and then they also had the sensor array sticking out like the Discovery's does, like in a bunch of different antennas in the front. So to me, that was like, okay, Discovery's like, as far as the show's concerned, is like blatantly saying like, don't count on your ideas of Star Trek anymore visually. Like that's it. Like this is the new Star Trek.
That's
take it or leave it.
Line for me.
I don't think so.
For me,
I think
does.
The story. I don't think it should, is what I meant to say. Not that I don't think so. I believe you that it's the line, but I don't think it should be the line, because it happened at some point to every beloved franchise or show that's this long running. And if the stories are good, and it looks like this story finally kind of, if Star Trek Discovery goes from here to an interesting place and then somehow manages to, like, it just seems like with Discovery, like the show's opened up to possibilities that I, as a what a show is going to do, am baffled by, and I like it. To me, it's not uncomfortable. To me, it's like a good feeling. And so I don't like to like have a show necessarily that I'm going to be able to predict. Stories were starting to get like annoying or bad, you know, like for example, Into the Woods, like I wasn't pleased with that story, and there were like all these things, but I think it's because like what direction the show was going in for myself personally, and now they've presented kind of like, hey, this is where we're going, and I'm
doesn't excuse into the forest I go though.
That's true.
Still a bad episode. Kit Walski wants you to call him back, so
all right, let me try him again.
Try maybe staying on that chat, because he keeps talking in there, trying to communicate with us from the outside. He's in another universe trying to get into ours.
Gary, we need you to use the Spore Drive to
Spore Jump, boy. Spore Jump.
What? You're gonna eject me? Or what?
No.
Oh. Why?
I don't know. Being
There he
negative
is.
again?
Hello.
Hello. There he
Can you
is.
guys hear me?
Hey.
Hello.
There's nothing, as a moderator of this discussion, I'll say there's nothing negative about any ideas that any of us have been presenting, and I think it's like, come on, let's get over it and just talk, like just like express your opinion the way you see it, and like, and be open to someone challenging your opinion, as I
Oh, I'm open. I'm open.
I feel like
On
I
that
came
note,
in,
let's
like,
get Kowalski's opinion on this.
yeah, I feel like I came in right at the end of a really important topic. What are we talking about?
No, I'm trying to convince Gary to love this episode of Star Trek, and I should just leave it. I should just leave him alone.
Gary's at a point of discomfort with Discovery. He's over it, and so he just sits there and listens to us pleasantly, because he prefers listening to us talk about it than actually watching it. But
it's true.
So then I take it, Gary, you didn't like this episode.
But
Why did you think that?
well, the rest of us loved it. So tell us,
Well,
what you thought.
You know, all of you know, maybe not unique, but so Halen and Sean knows exactly what's my feeling about Star Trek Discovery from the very beginning. It's not the Star Trek I was waiting for.
Right. And I'm not too far behind you on that, Gary, but at the same time, right now, the way I'm feeling, and it's because of this episode, and again, this is why Jonathan Frakes is a master, in my opinion, but because of this episode, I am now, let's go to season 2. Let's see what you're going to do, Star Trek Discovery. And there's a lot of clues, without knowing those spoilers that the After Trek team gave. There's a lot of clues in the little trailer clip that they showed as to what's coming up, at least in the next few episodes. And it's exciting because, you know, some of the little like just the, you know, tiny things like having Andorians. We're gonna have Andorians finally, and there was a cool like moment where Sarek was you know, mirror him, and he resembled, and he looks kind of like mirror Spock, which was kind of cool. And and then there's another interesting moment coming up where it looked like Tyler was fighting with Volk. So there might, but it could just be another Klingon, of course, but you know, in that
Or just
split-second scene,
his imagination.
that would be great too. So who knows? But finally, I felt like Star Trek Discovery changed in terms of like, even just like the crew felt more natural this time as well. And you know, Kowalski just joined the conversation, so we'll give him a chance to say what he thinks about the episode. Just to wrap up that little moment, what I loved about this episode from a production standpoint was like screenwriting, from the script all the way to the acting, was that everything just felt cinematic, like it should finally. Like Sean said earlier, it felt like first contact. That's what it felt like, was that like, oh yeah, this is like has a lot more to offer than I thought it did.
Yeah, for sure. So my overall feelings on the show, because I watched it last night, obviously, with like most of you guys did, and I've kind of slept on it and absorbed it throughout the day, and it was great. I think it was fantastic. I think it was easily the best episode of Discovery so far, which isn't saying much because they've had trouble up to this point, but I think it's a great episode of television. The crew's interactions with everybody seemed great. There's an air of mystery going on. I love the montage of them transitioning the USS Discovery into the ISS Discovery. Thought that was fantastic. Thought that was really well done. I loved all the scenes with Tilly. I loved that Lorca is now acting more like a captain should. And the character moment between Burnham and Tilly felt like the most real it's been when they're inside the ready room and they're talking, and she's like, this is what a captain's supposed to be, or this is what it's supposed to be like. It was one of the more real moments that they've had together, even though they've been together like the whole season so far. But it was a fantastic, real moment. The reveal of Ash as Volk, even though like we had all called that already, like everybody's called that already,
was done.
What's up?
It technically hasn't been done though. I feel like they're dragging that out.
They are dragging it out.
We've guessed it. Come on, guys.
Yeah, but I liked the sequence where she was repeating the lines and then he was repeating back to her, and they were cutting like that. I thought was very like a really fun way of, as opposed to just being like her staring at like L'Rell staring at him and being like, "But you're Volk," And I liked the fact that it was like they had like a thing there and like a moment. I thought that was really, really cool. I liked the way that they did that. I thought the action was a lot of fun, and it was just like a fun episode. I don't know. It was just a really good, well-made, well-directed episode. And it was something like very simple that I don't know if you guys picked up on it, but there were several scenes when multiple characters were standing around talking about what the plan was. And sorry, my phone's ringing, but there was several scenes where multiple characters were standing around talking about formulating a plan, and the camera was doing this trick where it was like rotating around people, but then it was like quick cutting to each person that was talking. And that's a really good cinematography trick there, where it kind of like swells up the tension as you're feeling people talking, as opposed to just talking at a completely flat angle. And they did it 3 times in the episode, and it really worked well. Like they did it initially when it was just them in the ready room talking about the concept of the different parallel universes, but they did it several more times as they were planning out their events. So I thought that was just really well done. And we actually talked about the other day when we were on here, we talked about how I mentioned that I was like, it'd be really great if they didn't use the spore drive, because it's always like kind of like they write them all into a corner and then they can just spore drive out of things. So it was really nice to be able to see them have to come up with ways of getting out of this situation without them just saying, "Oh, put Stamets back in the spore drive and get us home," because they can't do that. So I liked it. It really showed the ingenuity of the crew. Like they were putting a lot of stuff together. They were really putting things together. There was only a few threads that I was disappointed in, but overall, I thought the episode was fantastic, and I'm genuinely excited to see what the next episode is. Like I am chomping at the bit, which I haven't been at for Discovery since it came on the air. Like every episode's just been kind of like, okay, whatever. I guess I'll see what happens. But this one, I'm like genuinely like amped. Like, oh my gosh, Lorca's in the Agonizer, and they're, she's in charge of the Shenzhou, and what's going to happen, and what's Discovery going to do, what kind of trouble they're going to get into while they're still in the Mirror Universe. What's the Mirror Universe Discovery doing in the Prime Universe?
Right.
What kind of trouble are they causing?
So I need an episode just about that. Just like show us the ISS Discovery in Prime and just show us what's going on there.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm very curious to see
it's definitely winning the war. Gary, so you were right that the war is not yet won. That's another plot point that gets raised in there, and that's that just in order to win the war, Discovery now has to get back to the Prime timeline, because they can't give them the telemetry that they gathered from their little jump experiment to find cloaked ships. So I don't think in Star Trek either Klingons have either later updated their cloaking technology, but I don't think you're able to find a cloaked ship until Star Trek 6. Like technically that's never solved because
maybe this is our answer for it.
I suppose this could be like a primitive cloaking technology that was adapted from the sarcophagus ship, and
then
so it
they
was easy to
later,
find them or something.
later get cloaking technology from the
I mean,
Romulans or something like that. Who
to be
knows?
honest, talking Discovery in general, be it technology or just lore, like the canon, they're playing fast and loose with it. But if you dig into it a bit, you can find justifications and reasons and ways to explain everything that's been done. It's just sometimes you have to, thread it out a bit, but it works. Us Star Trek fans are good at doing just that, trying to make everything work, even though sometimes it just obviously doesn't.
That's basically the subtitle for all of our YouTube channels. Welcome to Star Trek.
Yes,
we just make it work. We're gonna make it work.
Correcting canon for centuries, but
That's right. That's right.
yeah. No, Kowalski, I agree with everything you said. The if I were to find one kind of major problem with this episode, and it is minor or major depending on how you look at it, there's only one medical officer on the entire ship. So first of all, we haven't seen the chief medical officer, which is a bit weird. Also, he shouldn't be the only doctor in the room at all times. And I know it's a detail, but then when you think about it in the context, that's how Culber dies, because he's the only guy there. And in a starship, he shouldn't be the only guy there. There should be just 5 or 6 other doctors running around at any given moment.
There was in an earlier scene. There was
my
definitely a
major
nurse,
flaw.
though. No, but in an earlier scene, there was. I thought about something similar to that because like
we've seen them in the series, but just generally, there should be a chief medical officer.
Right. I'd
to
have
be
to,
honest.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
okay, so
it depends what the layout of the medical lab is like, because I like serious major reason, but I've spent a lot of times in like emergency rooms and hospitals, and this kind of resembled like this is just like one like examining room or one area of a larger sick bay, and so whenever we see him in the scenes, he's just in that one room, but there's a hubbub of activity going on right outside the room, in the entire medical bay. So we don't actually know how big the medical bay. We don't have schematics or anything.
It's not really how it's been presented to us in all of the other iterations of Star Trek. So anyway,
right. But Trek Yards did an interesting like discussion recently about the Discovery, because they finally released like the length of it. So now you can extrapolate like all kinds of interesting facts about the ship, and I highly recommend that you watch that so you can understand what I'm about to say. Sorry, gentlemen. But basically, the the Discovery is much larger than the Constitution class Enterprise, and so a smaller crew complement. So the Enterprise, Kirk's Enterprise, had like something close to 400, and the Discovery's like at 186 or something like that. So they're like, what's all this extra space for? And it kind of makes sense because the Discovery was said to have been able to do something like 300 simultaneous experiments at any given moment, right? So I'm imagining there's a shit ton of labs on the Discovery, and like just a lot of science equipment and things like that, and like a smaller crew complement because you all these experiments running, but you don't necessarily need a person per experiment. So like, how I see it. So I'm imagining, this is totally my imagination, but that's probably just a small bay in sick bay, like a small like little room or something like that. Hopefully.
So that was my if I were to really find a major problem, that would be my major problem. The good thing about this episode, and what pleases me so much about this episode, is that I find myself nitpicking, and I feel like an asshole for nitpicking at this episode, whereas the other episodes of Discovery, it was the other way around. I was searching for what pleased me. Not all of them, but most of them. I was like, all of this doesn't make sense, and I'm trying to figure out what does.
Yeah.
This was the other way around. It's like, I loved all of it. Oh, it is this, but it doesn't matter. Like the threat ganglia on Saru is just stupid. It never comes out when he needs to, and now all of a sudden it comes out with Tyler. It hasn't come out a single time for Tyler. Like, why? Does he sense that the guy's activated? I don't know. It's weird. His threat ganglia doesn't come out when he's about to get blown up by the Klingons. I don't know. and it's just small details, but then it's nitpicking and it's details. And now I feel bad because the episode is awesome.
So I would say,
I mean, am I the only guy that sees the yellow alert green sometimes, or is that just
I
me?
think you need to go to the doctor. So
Okay, because the view screen is yellow, but when it's in the back, like when it's the yellow alert on the back panels, sometimes I see it like bright fucking green.
Oh wow!
I didn't see that, but I've only watched the episode once, so I'll have to go back through and pay attention to that. I know on the main screen it was yellow for sure, but I didn't
yellow.
see.
But
it's
on those back panels. You usually look at the characters doing whatever they're doing.
It does look like a bit green.
Does it? Okay.
Well,
cool, Gary.
I see it like fluorescent green. So maybe I got a problem, but
No, hang on. I share my screen.
Yeah, Gary.
I share my screen and I'll show you. But it may be just the detail. Just a sec. How can I do that? Your screen.
Yeah, you just go up to the thing. Yeah,
there we go. Can you see that?
All right.
Can you see all of
that? That does have a green tint to it.
And all of that. And all of that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's like a mixture of like green and yellow tints all over it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Red alert look like on the ship. There's a lot of colors.
Well, that's the thing. Red alert is, but see, the parts that are yellow.
Sorry.
No, the parts that are yellow and the parts that are green all come up the same red, and that's why it kind of. I went. Wait a minute. Then again, I mean, we're talking about a minor color change
for sure.
It doesn't matter. But I mean, it's a good thing that the only thing I have to say is that the yellow alert is kind of green. The rest of the episode was awesome. Costumes,
Sean,
are amazing.
Unfortunately, now like 5 people someone listened to this in the executive department at Discovery, and now 5 people just lost their jobs because they were like, "You can't."
Yeah. Okay, I highly doubt that because we have been very harsh on this show.
No, I know.
What we said. The show would be cancelled.
They watched our last episode and they took notes and then they just redid the whole episode.
Oh God! We need to change this.
Yeah. No, but the script's been leaked. How do they know all the details? This is ridiculous.
Yeah, watching After Trek, they're reading predictions from people, and someone said, "I predict that they're in the mirror universe, and that Stamets has been seeing the mirror universe all along." And the producer's like, "That's amazing. How do you figure that out? Come on, guys."
Right. I mean, it's not that crazy. And you actually totally, was it you that said that? It was you that totally called the Captain Tilly thing. You totally called it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like he says, "Oh, Captain Tilly." It's like, God. Yeah. And I'm actually glad that they paid that off because we were talking about black badges not being paid off. Well, it still hasn't happened, but Captain Tilly has been paid off.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, okay, so this is maybe just me, but Lorca comes to the conclusion that they're in an alternate universe very, very quickly. But then I can't help but think that maybe it has to do with something that he types, with that thing that he types in the previous episode. So the new coordinates.
So I want to say a couple things really quick about that.
Go ahead.
Number one, before we go on to kind of theory predictions as to where the characters are at, I do want to go ahead and pull us back really fast to the issues that I had with the episode. The only thing that I really was buggered about was the situation with Ash Volk, potentially Volk. You know, when they looked for, like, I was expecting there to be a sequence or a problem when they realized that Ash Tyler didn't exist in the mirror universe, like, at all. Because why would he? You know, there wouldn't be a similar situation where this Volk guy, who may not even exist or may already have been killed because he's maybe, you know, because there's this whole other race alliance going on.
Yeah, so the chances that the same thing has happened in the mirror universe is like infinitely
it's very
small.
minimal. So I was expecting a sequence where they were like, we don't have any information about you. You don't even exist. And I thought that was maybe going to begin to rouse suspicion between Burnham and him. And maybe that was going to cause potentially like a little bit of a rift. And I thought maybe there would have been a sequence once they beamed over, because I thought it was weird that he came with them on the away mission to go onto the Shenzhou, because it's like, so does he exist in this universe or does he not? Like, it was very weird to me. Like, I felt like they kind of glossed over that part because, like, yeah, what are the chances of that in this real universe, him and Laurel got together and they did the exact same surgery and he's been running around inside of the Terran Empire looking to get the discovery. Like, what are the chances of that really happening? So it was just that to me, what I thought was a little bit like I felt like they could have played with that a little bit more between his character
Just a side
and
note on what you said. Do you think that because the first time we see Ash Tyler, he's with Harry Mudd and Lorca and some other schmuck in the prison? Is that guy in the prison the actual real Ash Tyler? That they sifted his personality or something from him, disposed of him, and put that personality in Volk. Was that the real Ash Tyler? And that would explain that there is a real Ash Tyler that exists in both universes.
That could be possible.
Dr. Culber kind of hints at what might have happened to. I don't think it answers that question, but at least like my impression was that like somehow Volk physically transformed into a human, and that meant like that Ash Tyler was like they took his actual organs and his brain and like his brain maybe, but like it was just some really crazy kind of surgery because every one of his organs has scars on him. She says that his bone density was was reduced, and that like also together, so like he was made from taller to shorter, like to more human proportions or something.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they've essentially revealed it, but they're still dragging it on.
Right. I mean, he's Volk. It's 100%. He's Volk. And,
but he's physically transformed him is horrific. Like it's kind of crazy, like like what they've done. So they must have like used skin grafts from the actual poor Tyler. Like I
feel like it would have been easier just to like clone a human or program a human or something rather than change Volk entirely. Like, I mean, that's a lot of work for someone. It didn't even work properly.
It didn't, and it's not paying off at all.
He's not even, it's like, I mean, whatever. You had something else to complain about.
Interesting. Yeah, I think we have an interesting character now because he's pretty unstable and scary. Like he just snaps Culber's neck like nothing. You know, like he's just like it doesn't take much. You know, he's just like. So.
Well, I was intrigued by the fact they put him on the worker bee. Like they have this whole scene where he's having trouble in the worker bee, but he shouldn't be on there.
Right.
He just came back from the sarcophagus ship.
Right.
He just had like a huge episode in the sarcophagus ship. Why the hell is he alone on a ship trying to get something that's very complicated to retrieve?
Yeah. And he's hiding. Interesting about Discovery is that like this is where it takes a departure, I think, from some other ways that Starfleet is depicted and things like that, because like Burnham's kind of also enabling him. She's like has her own concerns that she expresses in that one scene about his ability to do his duties, and she's concerned about his post-traumatic stress and all that stuff, but he keeps like saying that she like trust him, and and it's rough because they're in a relationship, but like it's very intriguing because it's all messy and sloppy, and like as a Starfleet officer she should be like, no, in other shows we might together, but it doesn't interfere with their duties, and like in this situation Burnham's not the logic the way it should go, so like I think it's interesting like what's going to happen. And in the trailer for the next couple of episodes, or maybe just the next episode, sorry, there's that scene where you see them, in bed together. So it's only going to get steamier, first of all, and then also it's going to get more sordid. I think, like at some point, she's going to have to like, it's going to be like devastating when she finds out who he actually is. I think that's my feeling as to like why they're doing it this way, and I kind of think that's a good story to tell. Like it's gonna be interesting, at least.
I'm on a different.
So before we get into theory crafting for the next
episode or
next couple episodes, I want to go ahead and read to you guys an article that I found last night with the two showrunners, Gretchen Berg and Aaron Harberts, that they did with television critics.
After Track 2. Oh, okay, sorry.
No, you're good. And I just want to read a couple excerpts from this interview that they had done because they touched on a couple of topics here. So I want to read just two quick excerpts to you guys really fast so we can because I think that'll help steer our theory crafting discussion so that we don't get way off topic.
Gotcha.
And we're stuck with what they're talking about. So I do want to go ahead and say, so these are quotes here. So it says, the second season is not a war season. We're in this interesting pocket of time, 10 years. Now we're 9 years before TOS. Interesting point. There are a lot of things in terms of TOS canon that we want to do with some nods that we're still trying to figure out. And the next quote I want to read is, we have some time this year. So we're going to have time to do things like more away missions, newer planets, stories, and that might fall a little bit more into the framework of allegory that people love to get from Trek. But we're going to continue to have an overarching serialized thread. But they do want to go ahead and gear the show, push more towards the original series tone of optimism and light as it wraps up their war arc. So that's just two big quotes from there. It was a very long interview that they did, but that was just two really big quotes.
I'm going to compare. Maybe you guys will disagree with me on this, but I think that Enterprise Season 3, the Xindi War, which is not really a war, it's just an incident, is the worst thing in Trek currently. I think it's terrible. It doesn't even have the excuse of being the first season of a show. And I feel like somehow Discovery Season 1, the Klingon War arc, is going to compare to the Xindi War arc of Enterprise. It's just like, it didn't work out. Maybe one day Star Trek will be able to make a show or a movie or an arc about war, but they'll have to have someone else do it. But for the moment, it's just not working. The DS9 war worked very well because it goes on for multiple seasons, and so you can really see how it affects people.
Right.
But I think just having like a 9-episode war or the 15-episode war doesn't work. And yeah, I'm very happy to see that they're going to move on from that and do some actual discovering.
For sure. Yeah. The two big things that really popped out to me in there was, number one, that they're talking about, because we started at 10 years away from Kirk and Spock, and now they intentionally said that we're now 9 years. So I guess that's something that I hadn't really thought about, but I guess they're being very mindful about how close they are going to be lining up with the original series timeline. So it's interesting to hear them say that. And then, yeah, of course, the fact that they slipped in a line saying we have more time this year, which just, again, kind of reminds me of how, CBS is CBS. So they probably really did put the crunch on them to get a show out for a certain period of time. And that actually, when you lay it like that, put that context on the first season. What's up?
That mean more episodes? Or do you really think it is production time?
I really do think it was production time. I think that they got rushed.
That was the general impression, and plus all the kind of there was a lot of drama on the production.
Okay, so we can kind of say that season 1 was kind of like rushed out, and they put out an arc that isn't their best, and it can only go up from now on.
Yeah,
the producers of the show are asking for your forgiveness, Sean. Do you give it to them? Do you give it to them?
Well, I'm going to wait till the end of the season.
Right? Yeah, I don't want it to be we're going to find out. Next Sunday if this was a one-off Jonathan Frakes, slam dunk episode, or if they finally started to grasp what they were missing out on overall from Trek. But if you put it in the context, if the show continues to get better, if you put it in the context of this first, set of episodes that we had, season chapter 1, we'll call it, was rushed out and we didn't have time to cook it like we wanted to, then you could kind of understand, like, when you put it in that context, it's like, okay, now I kind of understand maybe why this show felt rushed. Like, a lot of the character actions didn't make any sense. We didn't visit planets. Everything was all over the place. It was very fast paced, so so that kind of makes sense. But so that increases my hope. The fact that they said that and they're the showrunners makes me feel like they're aware of the fact that the first season, the first chapter was rushed, and that they're looking to go in a different direction with it. So that's what I'm excited about. I really want to hear Gary's input on those quotes, though. What do you think? Because I know you don't like the show right now, but what do you think about what they said?
Make it so.
Sweet and simple.
I like it. Yeah.
Did you like the
Gary, are you gonna stop watching?
Ooh.
Question for Gary also. Gary, are you at least still interested in continuing to watch Star Trek Discovery? Like, did this like pique did this episode at least want you to continue watching the show, or do you feel like
I'm not
you're
gonna quit. It's not as easy for me to quit on a show that I'm a fan of for such a long time, and I'm just having trouble at the moment. Maybe I'm gonna get back to it 10 years after it's finished, and I'm gonna love it, because I was like, why did I love like that? And I'm gonna watch these discussions that we just did on all the episodes, and even my reviews and reactions, and I'm gonna say like, why did you say that back then? I'm really looking forward to that period of time. So I'm not gonna not watch it. I'm going to watch it every week, and I'm going to do my reviews. And actually, I've already did that beforehand. I joined to the conversation, so actually it's more positive than I look. Well, I hope so. I don't know.
I actually can relate to you 100% on that, because I stopped watching in season 3 when the Zindi War. For me, what you said, Sean, also resonated, because that war was like, I was just, and then it like the show pretty much lost me after that. But now I'm rewatching it as, you know, a much older person, and for some reason the show just has a new life for me, and I'm enjoying it a lot. Now I haven't gotten to the war again. I'm only in like season 2 in my rewatch so far, but we'll see how it goes. So far though, I feel like I remember I watched season 1 and season 2 for sure, but I feel like I missed out on a lot for whatever reason. Maybe I wasn't paying attention when the episodes originally aired, or, you know, who knows, like.
Right. Yeah. I could I could talk a whole nother hour just about how UPN totally jacked Enterprise. Essentially, they've ruined that show because of the way that they aired the show. They kept moving it around, and
yeah, it's true.
It was a bad, like, you guys are 100%. I think actually probably all of us are in agreement that Star Trek Enterprise, when it originally aired, just didn't resonate well. Even with me, as I watched it, I hated it. I thought it was the worst thing ever. And then I rewatched it last year, like all the way through, and it's probably. It definitely earned its way up probably to my second favorite Star Trek series, because it really hit me well. Like, I really liked it a lot. But anyway,
the thing is, I loved it from the very beginning. I remember watching the first episode and then the second one, and I've got excited every moment. I had the same excitement with every previous Star Trek show.
I never actually watched it as it came out. I used to watch Trek as a kid with my mother, which when she saw Archer running around hitting people, I mean, she didn't like that at all. So there was no Enterprise in our home, so I didn't watch that. I was like,
Enterprise is banned from this household.
Yeah, no, it's like, nope, no Enterprise. Okay. And then so I watched it for the first time this year. Oh well.
Right.
And I mean, I suppose a little disappointed in the sense that it really is just TNG DS9 Voyager again. I was expecting more actual discovering, like, new things, and like in the first season you get the Ferengi straight away. But sorry about that.
Yeah, true professional here. So
wait, remember we're casual and informal on Starfleet Boy, so
that's true.
All of that.
And I say that my phone rang earlier too, so it's fine.
Anyway, I finished on Enterprise because we shouldn't talk about too much about that. But I was knowing that there was a season 4 that was quite praised, helped me go through season 3, and I think the show isn't. It has problems of its time, dare I say. The original series is kind of hideous in a sense because it came out in the 60s, so it looks cheesy. Right. All of the shows have flaws that are specific to their eras, and I think, like, the conclusion of season 3 with Jonathan Archer running in slow motion in front of an explosion is kind of a testament to how stupid the year 2000 was in cinema and in television series.
For sure. No, you're right. You're right.
But then, I mean, you put it in context.
So, yeah,
you put it in context. You're like, yeah, this is the 2000s. Anyway,
so
I wanted to ask Gary what he thought about the Lorca kind of impersonating Scotty, chief. Like, so it was the Scottish chief
Scotty, but Scottish chief engineer.
You must have liked that. That was fun.
Yeah, that was fun.
Okay.
What?
Okay.
I didn't say
Well,
it was a bad episode. I said it was a good episode. It just didn't justify me in the way I thought it will, because it was so much. The buzz was so big about it, and everyone was so excited. Like, and I got hyped because everyone was so hyped, and I watched it, and I wasn't as hyped as I thought I will be.
Well, I guess to get us all into a place, like a contextual understanding of how much we like the episode, I'm going to kind of force the rating portion of Starfleet Boy into effect now. And so, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, you know, what would you give this episode? So, you know, I'll go ahead and go first. Like, this is my very first
1 to 10?
So, like, yeah, 1 to 10 is the scale. So,
we always do 1 to 10. Why am I confused? We always do that.
It's 9.5 this episode.
That's high.
What did you give?
9.5.
Oh my god. Well, you're all gonna hate me.
No, we're not gonna hate you. Go say it.
No, I'm going on the last as usual.
All right, we'll put you on the hot seat this time, Nick.
I would say, understanding everything that we've known about where the show is at and how good the episode was yesterday, I would give it a 7. I would give it a 7. It was a solid, well-made episode, and I think the hype train got so big because of the fact that we've been, I would say, a bit dulled by the first chapter. It was a bit boring overall, and the fact that this one actually had like so much stuff happening in one episode, I think that's what caused it to really break out and make everyone jazzed. So, but for me, I think it was overall a 7.
Yeah, the Jonathan Frakes thing brought me into all the hype train, and I rode that train.
I'm still on it. I'm not off the train, but I'm just saying. Like, but if I tried to take myself off of it for a moment, I put it at a 7. So.
I see what you mean. It kind of feels like the first part of the season was kind of underwhelming, and so in contrast, it makes this one seem a lot better than maybe what it actually is.
Yeah.
That being said, I am going to have to go higher than you simply because even if it's kind of playing off the fact that the others aren't as good, it at least made me appreciate the rest more. It's helped me appreciate the season more. So I'm gonna give like an 8.5.
Yeah. Wow, I think that's the highest score you've given on Discovery, so that's cool. Gary, the moment we've been waiting for.
Oh my god. Because of the fact I loved how Tilly became Captain Tilly, and that's it. I'm gonna give a 6.
A 6. Whoa.
I was thinking lower, but no, 6. Tilly made the episode for me.
So we can average it out somewhere as a group, somewhere in the 7 point area, like 7.2, 7.5 area. So that's cool. Good.
I think, and that doesn't sound great, but I think if we did this for every single episode, I think that when you look at the numbers for all the episodes that we've seen so far, this would come out on top, like a clear winner. This would be a clearly higher rated episode out of all of them. So
something we said before you arrived, and I can't. I said this, and I don't know if what I'm saying is actually true, if it's just a feeling that I got. I felt like the fact Jonathan Frakes directed this made it feel more Star Trek, and it how do you feel about that? Is that something that you'd be comfortable saying?
Yeah, no, it's
we associate the fact and Jonathan Frakes directed it.
I think it's a psychological thing, the fact that we are aware that Jonathan Frakes directed this episode, but it also comes down to the fact that you can tell that somebody with decades of experience in the Star Trek realm and sitting in the chair, essentially, quote unquote, sitting in the chair and being a part of that has obviously affected them. Like, I really do feel like the sequence, every single scene with Lorca was retouched by Frakes because he's acted differently than he has in the entire show so far. And I also think that the sequence where Burnham and Tilly are in the ready room and talking, I genuinely feel like he had a very strong presence in that sequence as well, in terms of trying to gather those characters together. I really do think that the wisdom and experience of being a part of Trek bled out. And I think that's why everybody is saying, like, go online, articles, YouTube reviews, even us are saying this episode felt more Trek-like than any other episode. I think it's one because we know Frakes was in charge of it, but his creative juices just kind of flowed out of the episode, and I think it affected all the actors. I mean, they've even done interviews saying, that we appreciate, what everything he did on set and trying to push us and trying to tweak everything up and making everything a lot better than it was, and I think it shows. So I think his experience, this is definitely not going to be his last episode. He's going to be coming back for more episodes. That's guaranteed. Like, that's a 100% guaranteed.
This was at random. He didn't get to choose which episode he directed. They kind of designated it for them. It was the luck of the draw.
It was, but I think that whether this was a Mirror Universe episode or not, because I mean, obviously that adds to the excitement because it's like, oh, this is kind of fun, and every Mirror Universe episode is always great. But I think that no matter what, I think that you would have still gotten the same kind of creative juices flown out of the episode, because I really do feel like because he's the director and he's the one setting the creative pace on set, that it really did affect it. So I think whatever episode he comes back to direct again is going to be very similar in its entirety there. So I do believe it was important for him to be a part of it. I do.
We need some LeVar Burton directed episodes now.
We do. And Brent Spiner and Patrick Stewart. We need another Fistful of Data's episode. So.
Adam could direct
well, I don't want a fistful of Sarus.
Fistful of Sarus.
No.
So, do you guys believe Captain Lorca in this episode? He comes across as like a little bit different than I had expected in terms of from the evidence of like. And I was starting to see a dark side of Lorca, and I was starting to suspect him to be up to some nefarious things. But in this episode, there's like a really strong against that, because like he acts like what you said, like much more captain-like, and even taking responsibility for things. Like there's the one scene in his ready conferring with Burnham and Saru about the experiments that he and Stamets were talking about, and then he even said like they came up with some other plan, and he's even like, no, wait, like me putting him through those jumps is what caused this to happen. Like I'm not gonna like risk any more harm to him, which was unusual, like what I expected,
right?
Kind of tone to be or whatever. But do you think there's something still up, or do you believe him and do you accept him as like an actual Starfleet, great intentions, and like all of this is just circumstantial?
Is he a good captain that can't handle bad situations?
That's what my guess is. Honestly, like I think when you go back through and watch the first couple episodes where he's got Burnham on there and we're, the Starfleet's losing the war, we're getting our butts kicked, and he's been told by Starfleet Command, listen, use any means necessary to help fight and win this war. That's an enormous amount of pressure for one person to deal with, especially someone who's like got like his crazy war room downstairs inside the, the underbelly of the Discovery. And, he's essentially trying to become this person that is capable of fighting a war, even though that's not really what Starfleet's all about. So we assume that he's been a warmonger and hates and just wants to fight wars and is kind of like a jerk because that's all we've been presented with. But when you step back and look at it from a perspective of, maybe he was just
son of a.
What happened?
What's going on?
I'm just listening to that conversation in the ready room when they basically start discussing how, the parallel universes and stuff like that. And basically Lorca said Stamets was ready for make some more experiments, but he didn't say that in the last episode. That's BS.
Oh, they were just talking about the discussion that they had. They were talking about
no, but he's setting up the whole conversation between them and the sorry, I just burst it out of nowhere. But he was setting up the conversation
lying about that
between him and Saru and Burnham, like kind of blaming Stamets for the whole situation, and maybe he wanted to experiment with the jumps instead of and he even covering up the fact that because Burnham and Saru was like, okay, let's go and check the navigational report, what happened, and he actually denies them. It's like, no, we don't have time for that. We have to blend in and have a solution. You see, and it's like he's covering up himself. He's the more I like him, the more I hate him.
So there's evidence you're saying that like he's still a bad our impression of him as being a bad guy. Is he a bad guy or a bad captain, I guess is the question. Like, do you think
he's a bad guy? He might not be a bad captain because he has values that actually you can relate to, and you can say, okay, this is more like what a captain should be. And I think he's just generally a war person. He's not a captain, not an explorer. He's a war man. He's a bad guy who wants to, end the job however he can actually do it.
I don't want to be the one to have to say this, but it is very 2017, very 2018 to have the white male as the antagonist.
Oh no! Oh no! I don't want to open that can of worms. But
I jumping out from the train.
I mean, you're not wrong.
We'll leave it at that. But
yeah,
it feels like something that is very common nowadays.
Yeah, no, you're right about that.
I did just want to say, the moment you came in, you said the words, like you literally said, he feels like a real captain. And I was showing up my notes to the screen because I write down notes as I rewatch the episode, and I have it here. Lorca becoming a real captain. I felt it. I was like, hey.
So I actually think so what you just said, Gary, I agree with what you're saying, Gary, but I do think that they are retconning parts of the character that they wrote from the first season with the whole war room, and he's got like his crazy torturing devices down there and all this stuff. I think that they're kind of pulling that back and making it seem like he was just under a lot of pressure and the war got to him and forced him to, because he even said that when he was talking to Dr. Culber, and he's like, it was this damn war. I was so focused on winning the war that I pushed Stamets so far. And now I've done this to him. This is my fault. So I think that they are going to pull back a lot of the stuff that they had originally written for him. And maybe they were originally going to make him like this duplicitous character and kind of an a-hole. But I think that they're shifting that tone a little bit away from that. That was what my gut was telling me.
I totally get that. I totally get that. But at the same point, I mean, if he achieved the goal to to destroy the Klingon ship, and they did in the last episode, and I genuinely thought at the end when he had this conversation in the shuttle bay or something, when they're looking out to the planet with Stamets, I thought, okay, he's calming down and they're going back to Starfleet, and he's going to face with charges, and what he did that he shouldn't have done, and there you go, he changed something, he messed up everyone's life basically, ending up in this different universe, and he's covering up his actions again. So he doesn't really want to get out from war. He doesn't really want to find peace. That's what I'm getting from his character at the moment.
Well, even his mirror universe counterpart is ambitious enough that he was trying to overthrow the Emperor, and that's how he
Emperor.
Which I would love to see if it's Michel Yeoh.
Yeah, so let's. I think we should slide this conversation over to some really fast, quick theory crafting. Here is, I think everyone's in agreement that they've already said that Michelle Yeoh is going to be coming back for an episode. I think everyone can just agree that I think she's going to be the Empress. Like, she's going to be the Empress.
It would be awesome.
I would love that. I would love that, or Stamets.
Stamets being the Emperor. I almost said Empress.
we definitely get if we take that same device where Stamets is kind of spouting out things from the future. I mean, we're going to go into some palace at some point. So
for sure.
Yeah, well, he's talking about the palace. That's why I kind of anyway.
Yeah, we all got that. Yeah, he's talking about the Imperial Palace. They don't want them to. He doesn't want them to go there. But obviously, no one's putting those dots together just yet. But I think that she's going to be the Empress. I think that she's going to be connected to the Sato dynasty, and I think she's going to be probably one of the last ones in the Sato dynasty that got set up.
I like that.
Just before
that would be amazing.
If this is the main, so there's a lot of different iterations going on with the Terran timeline, the mirror universe. There's a lot of different mirror universes out there. It's not just the one. So if we're sticking with essentially the more primary one that we've seen on screen, and they don't like go to the out beta canon sources, that means that Spock at some point is going to be visited. Obviously, he's going to be visited by Prime Universe Kirk in the next 9 years, and he's going to become the new Emperor. He's going to slide into that role. So that's happening. So, but we know that there is an emperor at the time. So it's very possible. It's very like they're not breaking canon by having Michelle Yeoh be a part of the Sato dynasty, and she's the empress of the empire right now. Like that doesn't break canon in any way. Like I've done a lot of research on this recently for my video that I did, and that can slide right into canon, alpha canon with beta canon sources mixed in perfectly. So I think that's what's going to happen. Like I think that's what we're going to see.
It would be very good. It would be very deep cut, and it would be very interesting if they did that. I don't know if they're going to go with the Defiant, or if that was just like a kind of Easter egg, and that was their way of explaining.
Right. I think it was an Easter egg. I think it was just.
And then moving on.
Yeah. I think that they're going to travel to that asteroid base where the Tholians, or that area where the Tholians had activated their temporal rift in order to pull the Defiant through, and I think that they're going to reactivate that in a certain way and have them enter back into their prime universe. Now, the real question is what time frame are they going to be entering back into the prime universe if they use that rift? Because that rift is not an exact science. You just enter into it and it spits you out wherever. So I'm curious to see how that all goes. I don't know how that's going to work.
Scene in the little what's ahead that shows Stamets back in the chamber, and this time there's like electric coming or entering his. It may be that he does use the spore drive not just to travel dimensionally, but maybe also in time, and that could be a reason, reasonable explanation as to why they leaked the fact that Hugh Culberg isn't actually dead. Maybe they stopped it from happening.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
Omega 13.
That's right. The Omega 13 device again. That's right. Like we talked about. Listen, we're going to have to file a class action lawsuit against the CBS writers because now they're just taking all of our ideas. So this is ridiculous.
Well, unfortunately,
I mean, Star Trek Discovery is essentially a copy of our podcast.
I know. That's ridiculous.
Oh boy. Anyway, so kind of points you guys want to bring to the table, or any other speculation about what's ahead, or mentioning some things that you liked about the episode?
I think that there's going to be a really fantastic scene, and they did tease it in that little video, but I think there's going to be a fantastic sequence where Mirror Sarek with goatee does the mind meld thing with Prime Burnham, and they're going to be in their little they're going to be very, very, I know. And they're going to be having like one of their little, mental meetings. And I think that that's when she's going to reveal to him what's really going on. And he's going to somehow, that's going to help either maintain her cover and potentially even assist them getting back home. Like, I think he's going to become aware of what that is. So I'm really looking forward to that conversation, especially since it appears as though Sarek is like in with the rebellion based off of where they showed them. So it's going to be very interesting for him to kind of maybe drum up those emotions about how his universe is. Michael Burnham became the captain of the Shenzhou and is this badass Terran Empire captain, which is probably like a huge disappointment for him that she's a part of that regime. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I'm curious to see how that plays out. So I'm excited for that. But as far as other theories,
it's also reminiscent of kind of like injecting, through the mind meld, like information about the prime universe or prime timeline,
right?
Much in the same way that Spock does it to Kelvin Kirk in the 2009 Star Trek. Basically, Kelvin Kirk is like an Uber Kirk because he has like a Spock.
I wouldn't know about all that.
But... well, he kind of does. I mean, in that mind meld, like
now you're just making me angry.
Right.
I like Kelvin Kirk.
I had one thing that is completely unrelated, and it is more a question. I felt like the CG was different in this episode. It felt less photorealistic, like more cartoon, but a lot cleaner. If that makes any sense.
I didn't really know.
I visually understood more of what I saw on screen, but the shapes felt a lot.
Whoa! Hold on, he'll be back. That's a crazy thing. How it's like stretching his words out.
I know.
I'm back.
To a
I'm back.
wormhole. You just went into a wormhole from Star Trek 1.
You did. You just got disappeared. You were firing photon torpedoes.
Okay. Did you get what I said or not?
No, repeat your thing.
Go ahead,
Okay. I was saying that somehow the CG felt different in this episode. It felt, I mean, I could understand a lot more of what I was seeing on screen. It felt a lot more kind of readable, but the CG felt less, dare I say, photorealistic. It felt more
Painted
almost
or
cartoon.
painterly? I don't
know. It felt more like I don't know how to describe it. It didn't feel like the same CG.
No, I get the same.
You must have had a special kind of
a lot more.
You probably had a special kind of tea before watching. No, I'm just kidding. Tibetan milk tea. It changes the way things look. No, I'm just teasing. To me, it looked pretty consistent with everything. I didn't notice that at all. I do think that the CG is different. Somewhere in the season, it does change a little bit from what we saw in the episodes, because I feel like that's where I felt like there was a change before, but it's pretty consistent from what I've been seeing. For me, it was pretty consistent to what we've been seeing.
I'll have to go back and rewatch it, but
well, focus on that scene where they have the Shinjo. It's right at the end. The Shinjo turns next to the Discovery, and they have the whole camera. Have a look at that, maybe.
Well, I'm wondering, and maybe I'm just trying to infer too much, but I'm wondering if that was intentional. Like maybe they tweaked the visual effects a little bit because we're in the mirror universe, and maybe they wanted it to visually look different.
Ooh,
and like you said, it wasn't substantial, but it was enough for, because I do recall when the Vulcan ship arrived, the Vulcan rebellion ship arrived at the beginning, it did look a little weird, and then when they shot at it, when it flew away and they shot at it and it kind of flipped around, it was a little weird, and it looked a little bit different. So I'm wondering if maybe that was intentional on their part. Maybe they were like, well, let's make it just a little bit different because this universe looks a little different. And they even make that reference at the beginning of the episode. They say, oh, our whatever signatures of our alloys or some such like
quantum
that.
Signature.
Yeah, they were like, oh, that doesn't match our universe.
Quantum signature.
Right. And he's like, well, how could that be? Everything in our universe matches that unless this isn't our universe. And maybe that's, maybe that's, it was intentional. I don't know. I don't know if maybe that's just a little too detailed for them over at CBS, but
I don't know. I think that it makes sense that that's what it would be, the case. But I personally didn't notice a dramatic or even a slight change. But I will watch now for it. So when I watch it the fourth time,
oh my God,
there's a lot of. So I will say that that's another thing I really enjoyed about this episode is there are a lot. It's very dense with information in terms of details. About we get a lot more information than I previously was aware of about the mirror universe, because they do some things. They have a different opportunity here than previous visits to the mirror universe gave us. Like here, like you said, Sean, in a previous discussion, the actual Discovery swaps places with itself. So all their instruments to gather all this information, and now they're going to take it back if they can get back there.
So here's the kicker piece with that, and that's why I do think we're going to be an Omega 13ing moment. I think they're going to Omega 13 not just before Dr. Culber died, but I think they're going to Omega 13 before they even went to the mirror universe. And the reason I say that is Kirk and company in the TOS episode have absolutely no idea about the Terran universe, the mirror universe. They have no idea. And not that they would know everything about it. Obviously, that probably a lot of that stuff would be classified or whatever. But as your deep space exploration vehicle of the USS Enterprise, the Constitution class, they're gonna have been read in on at least something about hey, by the way, there's parallel universes out there, and one of them is filled with a dictatorship known as the Terran Empire. Be on the lookout. But when they arrive, they have no idea where they are or what the heck is going on. So. I do think we're going to Omega 13 back, and it's just going to be before all that stuff happened. That's what.
Or even if they go back, in the prime timeline, and they end up going back home, they might gonna put Discovery in a I don't know, in a glass or something. They're never gonna talk about it, or they're just gonna bury the whole information about Star Trek. The USS Discovery, and never happened. This is like
That's true. I mean,
this is like one of the filing in Section 31 that they just throw it there, and okay, it was Federation, but with that, and they keep it under big wraps.
It might time travel looks like it's definitely going to come into play, not just because of the hints that we've gotten about Dr. Culber, but also because it would make sense that if they had to, like, let's say that whatever they're trying to find with the Defiant doesn't work out, that maybe in fact they can't get to their correct timeline if they go through that dimensional portal and they realize this or whatever, but like will be something along the lines of, you have to not just jump back to the previous universe, but you have to jump from the point in which you came, because that would actually reverse the other Discovery as well and bring it back to, because like I would imagine you'd have to jump, somehow they jumped and both ships were occupying that same spot for some reason because they swapped places. So I don't know. I'm just getting all techno crazy now, but
right. No, yeah.
There's a lot of ways to explain it, but I am excited to see what's coming up. Like I think it'll be interesting to see how
I'm just kind of waiting for the moment when we're gonna see the scene from Star Trek First Contact when Picard jumps up from the bed and like, oh, I had a nightmare, and the whole Discovery is just a nightmare.
Whose nightmare is it?
I don't know.
Gary, is it?
Picard's nightmare.
Because Enterprise
was that? And he sees Customs Troy like, there were some strange ships and the Klingon looked different, and I don't really get that, but. And it's like, okay, you just need to rest. You forget that
it'll be Worf's nightmare because the Klingon Empire fell apart and disarray. So it's this waking blood wine dream that we're inside of. So,
yeah,
that's awesome.
So Enterprise would have gotten. That's what you could do if a series doesn't make it past its 4th season and the studio decides to cancel it. It should just always be Commander Riker's hologram, like holodeck program. So
computer and program and everything back to normal.
I would be so mad if they did the same fucking thing again. I would be so mad. I would be so mad.
Well, with Kirk and Spock.
I know that like for me personally, I guess to kind of wrap up our discussion, but for me personally, this episode marked like a rejuvenation in my enthusiasm for Star Trek Discovery, which I admittedly was starting to lose, and I am looking forward to seeing. And I have to say, I feel kind of like I've become aware of some of my own like impatience with a show, and that's my own personal character flaw. But we just lost Trek on the Tube. I'll try to get him back, but I guess he's back. Yay. Okay. Just want to say, that like that's exciting when a show can pivot so quickly into a different like vibe, and I feel that like something that of hope, because the show seems to be able to respond to not just like ratings, but also because ratings are important. I mean, the show, as we've stated, is on a high already. It's a very celebrated debut, but also that it seems like the writers and producers came out and admitted that there were things being rushed, and that they seem to be listening to feedback from enjoy Star Trek who have been saying like, oh, this doesn't feel right, and it seems like they've taken that into account, and I appreciate that. So I'm excited to see how that for the rest of the series. More Trek, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I genuinely, like I said earlier, I think that this next episode on Sunday is going to be very telling to see if this was just a one-off Frakes slam dunk, or if the entire show is now starting to pick up its own pace and starting to feel more Trek as itself, or if they were just standing on Frakes' shoulders to make a really good episode, and this will just be remembered as the one good one. But no, I am hopeful, and I am excited to see where it goes from here. There's still so many Like, and it's just amazing that we talked about this for like 2 hours the other day, and you know, and within a short period of 45 minutes, they've just blown up so many more questions in my mind as to what's going on with the show and what's going on with the story and the characters and all that stuff. So I'm very excited to see what happens. I'm super jazzed to see how they get out of the mirror universe and get back to the prime universe and how that's going to be there and set up like that. So I'm very excited for it. This did renew my interest in the show very much so. So yeah, I'm eagerly awaiting the next episode. So, but we'll see. So I'm excited.
Do you have a closing statement for today's episode? Here he is. Gary?
I'm here.
And Sean, do you have
Don't
any
worry about
closing
it.
statements? You're welcome to give them now, or I will.
Yeah, I feel the same way as well, both of you. This was a great episode for me, and it's helped me not only better appreciate what came before and hype me for what will be coming next.
Yep. All right, Gary, let's hear it.
Oh my god. It was an okay episode. It was a good episode. It wasn't exceptional as I thought it will be. It was a good episode. I'm looking forward to what's coming next. End statement.
All right, Star Trek Discovery, you've got a tall order. But I'm glad that we're going to be able to see and find out next Sunday. Now I'm kind of back in that of like, I can't wait. But I am definitely going to black out Twitter, and I recommend you do it too.
Same here.
Just 24 hours. Just 24 hours. Not all.
I'm going to block out Twitter for the next couple of weeks. Actually, everyone just spoiling everything. No way. Getting no like it.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for gathering so quickly after the episode aired to talk about it. I love these raw thoughts, and I had a fun time talking about it with you guys. So live long and prosper. We'll see you next time, and I look forward to hearing what our audience thinks. Bye-bye.